say where you're going to make it. And this eventually can flow into the planning pieces as well. You shouldn't have to do a whole lot in your formula if you need, or in the formula section, the procedure section. If you're adding a whole bunch of ingredients here all the time, chances are your formula wasn't right to begin with. We certainly can add ingredients. You definitely need to be able to add some ingredients, but if you're adding things every single time, then we might want to look at your formula itself and let's get the formula tweaked in so you're not having to add it every single time, that type of thing. Depending on how you run your business, how you run your production, really depends on what your next step is. Some people get to this point and here's my formula and I just know how much of my formula I'm going to make, and that's how I think about it. Those people are probably going to size their batch just based on the formula itself without really even thinking about what it is they're making. So those kind of people, up here under sizing, all of this section goes together as sizing. So the people who don't really even think in terms of a finished good at this point might select weight or volume as their sizing method, and they might decide how much of this formula we're going to make. I'm going to make 500 pounds of said formula. I could switch this to gallons if I wanted to. So I'm going to make 500 pounds of this particular formula. When I click resize batch, I want you to look at these numbers that are showing up down here. When I click resize batch, all of these numbers changed, and they changed appropriately for this 500 pounds. All right? I don't believe that I have put in a yield on this formula or a particular loss factor on this formula. If I did, checking or unchecking this box when I hit resize batch would show me two different things. Okay. So this is the way some people do this batch.
So is this loss something that you enter manually? You assign on the formula?
On the formula itself, yeah. I'll actually do one that way because I think it'll help you see it. If it will let me switch screens. So right here, I will switch this to a 90% loss, or a 90% yield, so that's a 10% loss. Now, when I change something on the formula, that doesn't affect batches that were already created. So I already had like VC train 1 out there. VC train 1 isn't going to look or feel any different. I have to create a new batch to start pulling in whatever changes I made on my formula. All right. So this time, if I put in, I think I was doing 500 pounds. If I check the ignore loss, these numbers will be the exact same as what they were last time. If I uncheck this, therefore I'm accounting for loss, these are bigger.
So it's 500 gallons including or superseding the 10% loss. So you're going to end up with 500 gallons, so you're going to make 10% more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to put in effectively 10% more raw materials to get what you want. Okay.
And the weight or volume, that was the ingredients or the net what you get out?
This, you were sizing the raw materials
Okay.
to this. Yeah. You're ultimately sizing the raw materials, but you're saying, should I size them up or not?
Got you.
All right. So that's how some people are going to size this batch. What are some other figures? Other people are going to come into this batch. Let me see if I can get back to where I was. come back to where I was. Some people are gonna come into this batch and they say, our formulas are a specific size. They are sized to maybe a tank, maybe an FDA regulation, I don't know. They're a specific size, and we always make that size for exact multiples of that size. They typically call these mixes. It's the most common term, although I've heard some others, all right? Those people, instead of doing that weight or volume sizing, they may come in here and say, for this particular batch, I want to make exactly 3 mixes of whatever my main formula was. They put in the number 3 here. For people in this scenario, they're almost always ignoring loss. They don't want to deal with yield factors because they want an exact multiple. Hit resize batch. This is now exactly 3 times what I had before. So that's one scenario of how people size. Another scenario of how people size has to do with their finished good. This one is the one that I personally think of as the most common. It's the most natural one for me. But we've got them all out there because they're used by different people in different places, different reasons. This one is, I know that I want to make my finished good BCFG1, and I know that I want to make 100 of these. Come in here and you put in how much you expect to make. This time, your sizing method is end item quantity. A lot of times I want to account for yield, so I uncheck the box. Resize the batch.
So that makes sense.
Switch my mixes back to 1. And now this is the amount it would take me to make 100 of my finished good. Particularly when I'm using this sizing method, I like to go into the total section. And I like to see that this order weight and batch weight makes sense. If I don't have any loss at all, I'll resize without the loss. They should be exact. If I have some type of a loss factor in here and I resize, my batch weight, which is my raw materials, this front.
Thanks.
If I do have a loss, my batch weight, which is my raw materials, should be a little bit bigger than my order weight, which is my finished good weight. So that, to me, particularly when I'm using this sizing method, that's my check of, does this make any sense in terms of reality? You can do a default batch size. That was back on the formula where I showed that you could have a minimum or maximum batch size. There was a default batch size. If you put in the default there, you can always size your batch to that default batch size. Okay. What generally happens is you create the batch, you save it, and you may do this in batch entry. You may have actually done it through a whole other program that plopped it in here for you. And the most normal business process would be that you would print the batch ticket. This batch ticket, it's a crystal report. It could also be done in SRS, it doesn't matter. But it hopefully prints. And you get a sheet of paper and it goes out to the floor. Goes out to the floor and people write all over it. You write lot numbers on it. You write actual quantities on it. You write if we did a substitution on it. You might write QC results on it. Children. It's not even about so you write QC results on it. All that kind of stuff gets written by the production people, and then a sheet of paper comes back into the office. The most normal, most common, we won't use the word normal, most common procedure. This is our standard batch ticket. Like I said, it can be customized. We have some that look totally different.
Yeah, that doesn't look anything like ours.
Yeah. Yours was interesting because you had a format, and then it was given to me and said, go do this format without really any consulting that the process itself would change, which makes it interesting. we're happy to customize your batch ticket. But I would take into account, is your process gonna change at all when you go to Vicinity as well? Is there a reason that the batch ticket itself should change because the process is changing? And yeah, and his is SRS as well. So SRS or Crystal, we don't. So then you get this sheet of paper back in the office that has all kinds of wonderful information on it. At that point in time, you start coming in here to actually make this look like what really happened. Make your system reflect what happened in reality. The first thing you have to do, and you could have actually set some of these dates ahead of time, and maybe I'm not really going to make this on May 13th, I'm going to make it on May 27th. So you can set your plan dates ahead of time, or maybe you set them after the fact. You have to change this processing stage to release. The 4 stages we have, the first one is planned, the next is firmed, then released, and then closed. There's not a whole lot of system delineation between planned and firmed, so you can use those for what you want. If you have a business process within your organization that things move from one person or place or department or something, you could use that planned and then firmed to help you move things from one place to another. If you don't have that, don't worry about it. You can skip directly from planned to release without a problem. Getting to released is a different status. You cannot start entering actual information. You cannot start entering actuals on your batch, actual quantity information, until you switch it to release. So you're not going to be able to post, you're not even going to be able to enter quantities until you hit release. All right. So we changed this to released. You can enter your actual start date and such if you want. Since you're all integrated with ERP systems, you'll have an issue from location and a build to location that are defaulting in. If for some reason you're changing those from the standard, it's actually easier to change them before you ever bring in the formula. So I can show